The former technical director of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, Mr. Sunday Adeleye, has declared his candidacy for the presidency of the federation ahead of the elections, which will be held next month. Adeleye, who is a one-time national athlete and former athletes representative on the AFN board, aims to bring structural reform and grassroots development to the forefront of Nigerian athletics. With experience as an executive assistant to 2 federal ministers, Adeleye joins a growing field of contenders, including incumbent Tonobok Okowa, ex-president Ibrahim Gusau, Navy Commodore Omatseye Nesiama, and another dark horse who is also in the offing as well, a man known simply and popularly as Malik. Well, I have the honor to welcome the former technical director of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, Sunday Adeleye, to Game On tonight. Thank you so much for coming through tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I have Favor Itoa with me. I have Wale Adigo as well. These are some of the finest journalists in Nigeria. Well, let me just start by asking Sunday, why exactly do you want to be AFN president?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me in this wonderful studio of yours, even though I'm right back here at home talking to you. Well, Athletics Federation of Nigeria, or athletics in particular, is one field I love so much. I've also always practiced athletics, even as a child. And then, of course, I represented this country as an athlete. And of course, rose up even to the administrative part. So I understand the business of athletics because if you talk about being an athlete, I know what it means to be an athlete. And then, of course, if you talk about being an administrator there, of course, I also know what it feels like being there. So, and then if you also go to the angle of the business angle of it, which is, of course, sport consultancy, marketing and stuff. Of course, I'm also very grounded in that area as a sports consultant and as a marketer of sports business. So I just feel going there is for me to fix and then change the narrative, because athletics is a big sport, is actually big business. And then, of course, I think we can do better than what we're doing right now. And then, of course, I want to also contribute from all the experience I've put together as an athlete, as an administrator, as a business person. And I think that's why I want to go there.
Favor, you have a question for Mr. Adeleye?
All right, Sunday Adeleye, thank you very much for joining. I remember during the National Sports Festival in Benin City, your president then, that's Ibrahim Gusau, did host a press conference, and you were part of the system, talking about what to bring and how your own board, I mean, during the AFN saga and everything. Now you're in the ring, including your former boss, Ibrahim Gusau. Have you, sought his consent, or you think you just want to go out there and compete against someone that was the former president of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria?
Well, me and Adeleye Gusau, we've actually talked about this. I also sought his blessing because, of course, is a goal that, of course, I have to go alone right now, and then, of course, seek support of friends and families and well-wishers. So, of course, we have no hard feelings. I actually consulted with him before doing what I'm doing right now, and then, of course, he gave me his blessings, and, of course, that's why I'm here. But remember, there's a saying that says, all man for himself and God for us all.
Okay, Wale, question?
Yeah, good evening. Mr. Sunday joined us on a lovely Thursday night. I can be troublesome with my questions. I mean, my colleagues can
definitely
testify. But I just want to, do a bit of a chronicle of what you've been up to in the last couple of years. We know you worked with John Owaneno as a special assistant. And, I mean, you're someone who has always divided opinion, especially amongst, Nigerian athletes. We know, I mean, the events of Dubai 2019. Doha, sorry. 2019. We know what happened at the Tokyo Olympics as well, when a couple of athletes were rendered ineligible. I mean, there's the Puma deal as well. I mean, and you were in the eye of the storm in all of these controversies, as far as Nigerian athletics is concerned. And you have promised, like Tunde rightly said, you've promised structural reforms for the AFN. But I mean, some also say that during your time, when you had an opportunity to be able to reform things or be a part of it, things were not really, really reformed. So, I mean, what are the chances that if you get there, things might change?
Well, it's so unfortunate. I think you don't follow athletics today. You don't have the in-depth stories around athletics. So I will correct you I'll correct you about those notions of yours. And I think maybe you're among the fewer people that have that kind of belief about that, or notions about me. Well, first thing I will tell you about one of the best things that has ever happened to athletics in Nigeria. I'll come to the issue of Doha, or the issue of Doha. We got to Doha. Of course, how can I be responsible for athletes that are entered when I'm in Nigeria? If I'm in Nigeria, I didn't enter the athletes, I didn't okay them. So someone else did that, which of course I was here in Nigeria taking responsibility and taking care of other business for the athletes because there was no uniform for the team. So I personally sourced for uniform for the team with my own connections, and I got uniforms, and then we had to source. Then with the former president, Ibrahim Gusau, we had to source for funds to pay for duty and clear those kits before taking them myself alone from Nigeria to Doha. Kits for over 40-something bags of kits that I'm not supposed to do. That's not my job, but I had to sacrifice to do that. Should I leave the kits and then the athletes are competing without uniform? So when we have experienced officials that are there that did the clearance of the athletes, so should I be responsible for that? The answer is no. So that's why I say you don't have the index. And then going to the second the point you brought about Puma and stuff. So is it a bad thing that I brought a deal that has never happened to Nigeria before, got a deal for Nigeria for free? Is that a crime? So if I brought that, and then some people had issues, of course, because of politics that we're fighting right now. Some people had the issue that, we want to get there, so we have to cut this crisis so that we can get into office. So what's my about that? So should that be a minus on my own side for just being a good Nigerian, a patriotic Nigerian? Nigeria never paid for that. Those kits were about $2.7 million. And I got them for free for Nigeria without Nigeria paying me. So have I done anything bad? I think no. If you talk about Tokyo, I was not in Tokyo. I sent the kits to Tokyo and they refused to use the kits. Some officials at that point said, no, they shouldn't use those kits at that point. So, of course, I can be responsible for anything negative. I'm a positive person if I do it. And, of course, some people believe that, how is this guy getting stuff done? And then they feel they have to bring him down so that they can have their market sold properly to Nigerians. How can that be my own issue? So that is politics. In politics in Nigeria here, people pack other people, they sweep other people to get their own market sold and get themselves to the public. You understand? So it's a matter of who plays dirty politics and who plays clean politics. I don't play dirty politics. I play clean politics. So for that, that is that.
But just to correct an impression, I've got no bad notion about you. It was a very innocent question.
No, actually, to be honest, just to buttress what Wale
yeah,
said.
But of course, you were not properly informed.
No. This is the work I do. I have the facts, I have the information. I'm only saying that in the midst of all of these key issues, you have always been in the thick of it.
You said something about being controversial. How can that be controversial?
The truth, what I've said, Mr. Sunday, what I've said is that you are someone who divides opinion among athletes, which is a fact.
Yeah, he didn't call you controversial.
I didn't call you controversial.
Okay, just to keep this conversation moving very quickly, Mr. Adeleye, the honest truth, you raised some really salient points about probably there are a few people in the system who are not particularly enamored of the work that you do. Now, if you do become president, you will still have to deal with the same people who are still within the federation. How do you plan to navigate these potential landmines of these same individuals within the system who might, well, like you've alluded to, are not favorably disposed to your persona?
Of course, life is full of challenges and competitions. If you want to get, you don't want anybody talking about you, and then you don't want people coming against you, then you go to your village and stay in the forest. You understand? But of course, it's challenge, and because of the passion, that's why we're here and we keep doing it. Okay, at that point, even the people that said, oh, they could bring as a selling point for them, they said, oh, we don't need Puma, we'll bring another deal that is better than Puma and bigger than Puma. Did we get anything today? The answer is no. So, of course, life is full of struggle. You imagine today that we have a president in this country, of course, and of course, you hear people say a lot of things, you hear left, right, and center, but he's out there focused and he's doing his business, so that's the way it is. So if you have the passion, you keep on driving, you keep on going, and then of course, you must understand that as an athlete, athletics is not just for me sprints. For me, I see it as a long distance thing, and for this business of athletics that we're in, it's a marathon thing, so it's a continuous thing, and we keep going.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that Puma deal, because I saw those kids. I thought they were absolutely amazing, stunning, really beautiful. I thought it would have really brought a lot of pride and honor to Nigeria, wearing those kids right there on the track, but it didn't happen. Favor, you have further questions for the gentleman?
All right, Sunday, thank you very much so far for talking about what you hope to bring to the Athletics Federation of Nigeria should you get elected as president. Let's look at the last administration. I mean, a lot of persons felt we did not have a technocrat per se, other than one who was the Delta State Sports Commissioner who came into the system. Now we don't have the Ministry of Sport. I mean, the Ministry of Sport was around some months back before it was changed. We now have the National Sports Commission. How do you think that would help the cause of the Athletics Federation should you get elected? Do you think that it will be a different system? We've complained about how the system really affected the time you were director, the athletics director, and now we have the National Sports Commission. Should you get elected, do you think it will be something different from what we used to have, with the Ministry of Sport?
And just to buttress that question, what do you think you can do differently from the last board in order to improve the fortune of Nigerian athletics? Of course, you saw with great dismay, like all of us did, last Paris Olympics, Nigeria didn't even win as much as a plastic cup. How do you plan to change all that?
Well, of course, I think the National Sports Commission is the best thing that has happened to Nigerian sports, of course. And then, good enough, this is the very first time where you see a round hole, round pegs, or how do they say that? You have the real people of doing the real business there, taking care of or mounting the business of sport. Alhaji Shehu Diko is a sport technocrat. He's been there. He's a fantastic man. He understands the business. Coupled with the DG Sports Commission, Bukola Olapade, of course, they are just the perfect team and perfect blend. So, of course, we can speak the language we both could understand ourselves, as of course, because that's the same business we do, or business of sports. So, now, when you talk about what I can do differently, I'm telling you right now, from the get-go, I'd already started talking to brands and looking at brands that will come in, because one of the biggest problems we have in athletics Nigeria today is that, of course, when these athletes are not even properly dressed, their morale is dampened. So I'm already talking about another deal that will come up, and then, of course, will be even bigger and better than what we had with the Puma and stuff. So we're also talking to other people too to see how we can get that done if we're elected. And when we get elected, and then, of course, I don't know if, Favor, you are part of, you understand, you saw the story, the saga that happened one time, which, of course, is politics as well, that I traveled with 125 athletes to Abidjan, junior athletes there, to Abidjan by road. It made a lot of story, made a lot of news. You understand it? And then at that point, that is history. That was history then, because we had never traveled with that kind of contingent outside Nigeria. We were funded below the capacity of the team. We traveled with that team, and I'll tell you today that that team of 125 athletes that traveled with me on the road are the athletes that are doing Nigerian exploits today. Are the athletes that are out there shining, making records today. Why I'm saying this is that 75% of those athletes are now in the US, in the collegiate system. What helped them to get there was a simple thing that, oh, which competition have you attended? Which international have you attended? Have you ever represented your country? Most of them use that competition as a platform and sold themselves out. They're out there on scholarship, studying for free. That is someone who understands the business, so I understand what it is. And secondly, I will tell you, if you like spend billions and billions and billions of naira keeping our athletes in camp, training them, without the exposure is zero. So I have identified that Nigerian athletes need exposure. It is part of the business. That is because I have gone through that route before. So if you see my time as a technical director, what I keep doing was that I kept pushing for exposure. Feeling you see today, running and we're celebrating, how did we get to feel? There were a set of people that I sponsored myself to go out to schools to scout for athletes that saw Ophelia. Ophelia was a very young athlete when I took her to World Championship in Yokohama in Japan. People said she was not ready. I said, let's expose her, she will be ready. And today, are we not enjoying, are we not reaping from that? Enoch Adeboki, today, I took him to Australia for the Commonwealth Games. Oh, how would you gather these children? They don't have experience, but today they are the same athletes we are celebrating. So exposure is very important in the business. Those are what I'm going to do differently. Of course, then I was a technical director. If I'm the president now, it makes it more easier because I know I can talk to my board and convince them for us to have a direction towards those areas. Okay. I'm sure we'll have bunch of talents out there.
Okay, brilliant response, Mr. Adeleye. I think before we go, I think Wale has one more question for you.
Yeah, I think I'm back with my trouble again. But Mr. Sunday, I wanted to just two questions wrapped in one. The first one, I really want you to pitch to me why you think you're better than the guys who are running. Ibrahim Gusau, Tonobok Okowa, and the Navy Commodore as well.
Maliki Popo.
Yeah, why? I mean, tell me why you think and you believe you're better than them to run the AFN and take it back to its glory days. Then number two, where do you stand? I mean, you talked about how a bunch of the athletes you brought through had made into the collegiate system. Where do you stand on our athletes getting sucked up into that collegiate system? Because we've discussed it a whole lot and believe that the more of our athletes go into the collegiate system, the more they cannot give us because they are signed up to always race, and by the time they come for international meets, they are burnt out. Where do you stand on that? Do you have any plans to also ensure we have a structure, a system that can ensure that these athletes don't even go to the collegiate system and stay put here and we groom them, to do us proud?
Just like the Jamaicans.
Just like the Jamaicans too.
Okay, first question we're going to answer is, of course, I'm not better than those guys. You understand? I'm not coming here to boast and say I'm better than them and this and that. No, that's not what I'm out here to do. They are all good. Everybody has tried his best, but I want to be given an opportunity to also try my own best. So posterity should judge everybody's performance. Now, going back to the collegiate system, it's just like you telling me today that all our players in Nigeria that play in the Europa League or they play in the EPL, of course they have their national assignments out here. If Nigeria calls them, are we going to say because they play in Chelsea and Chelsea has burnt them out and they are coming to Nigeria, they can't come and do anything for Nigeria? That's not the case. So,
well, just to buttress what he's saying, because for the upcoming,
if you have your proper planning.
To buttress what he's saying, because for the upcoming world relays now, we're told that we will not be able to get some of those athletes because the NCAA season is currently going on, and some of those athletes might actually be contracted to race, or they might be also having exams. So because of that, they will not be able to represent Nigeria at the world relays.
Yes, because the problem is, are you telling me today that with the population of Nigeria, over 200 million Nigerians, are you telling me you are relying on just one athlete? If you don't develop what you have in the home base, all our athletes are not in the collegiate system. So there are categories and you must have a plan. So your plan for these athletes is very important from the beginning of the season. And then I'll tell you today that most of these athletes going to these schools, the federation has no agreement, no contract with them. So if you have proper agreement with the schools, that look, we're giving you this athlete, these athletes are going there, but this is the condition. Our federation will need this athlete for World Championship, we'll need them for XYZ. The school will make arrangements.
Okay.
There are times that you have to crash and then make arrangement for those trips for them to go and come.
Yeah.
But of course, we shouldn't be relying on just one athlete. I will tell you today, if you put up the 100 meters, we have over 10 athletes that will be running a 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, 10-1.
Very true. We've actually seen them here in Nigeria. Mr. Sunday, I'm really sorry to cut you short, but we've had a very entertaining and very educative and illuminating discussion with you. We'd like to wish you all the very best in your quest to become AFN president for Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming through tonight on Game On. Like I said, I'm sure on behalf of the gentlemen here, we'd like to wish you all the very best.